Thank you everyone for being here. We'll probably have a couple more people trickling in. For those of you who haven't met me before, I'm Caroline Nathan. I'm the Director of Success at Vera, and I am based in Salt Lake City, so it's a bit early for me this morning. Thank you to all of you across the world for joining at different time zones. I know for some of you it's the end of your day. For some of you it's quite early on the west coast of the US. So thanks for everyone for being here. Here's our agenda for today. We're going to try and keep this to a tight hour and a half. We've done 2 hours in the past, but we recognize that's kind of a lot to commit to. So we're actually really excited to have Eilert here from Earthworm Foundation, and we're going to jump right into this, where she's going to present some highlights from Earthworm's experience implementing AMP, how they're using it, do a little bit of a demo, and just share some learnings and I don't know, exciting tidbits of how that's gone from their side. I'll do a bit of an AMP Impact snapshot. We'll see what's coming on the horizon for the product and some other sort of exciting initiatives that we have going. Then we're going to do a breakout discussion, and we'll have our Senior Director of Engineering, Aseidas, here to lead us through this. We are very lucky to have Aseidas. He is actually a PhD candidate in the responsible use of AI in the nonprofit sector and has led our sort of efforts at exploring and using AI within Vera in a responsible way. So we're going to talk about some key principles that we can all think about, and then we'll do some breakout discussions in breakout groups with some case studies, try and apply those principles and sort of wrestle with the question that is how to use AI responsibly within the nonprofit sector. And then we'll have a quick wrap up and we'll all go back to our normal days. So I'll kick it over to Carmen to get us started, and then we'll hear from Eilert.
Thanks, Caroline. Yeah, I've worked closely with Eilert. I was the project manager when we were implementing Earthworm's system. So it's my pleasure to introduce Eilert to you. She's Earthworm's digital transformation rock star and master of a work-life balance. She's based in, well, their office is based in Lyon, Switzerland, and Eilert is all about chasing sunshine, whether it be in her garden, on hikes, or at the beach, family time with her husband, her 2 beautiful daughters, and her cats, and spoiling her colleagues with weekly homemade treats. Professionally, she's unified Earthworm's chaotic system into clarity, built bridges between siloed teams, and made tech adoption feel human-centered. So, join me in welcoming Eilert, who proves that great change starts with listening and maybe a little bit of sugar.
Thank you so much, Carmen, for that lovely introduction. It feels like there's no pressure now. Yeah, it's lovely to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to share Earthworm's journey with Amp Impact over the last few years. So, without further ado, I will jump into my slides. I think you can all see my screen. Maybe Carmen, give me a thumbs up.
Yeah,
if
we
it's
can.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, cool. So, as Carmen mentioned, I am the Global Information and Digital Ecosystem Lead at Earthworm. That means that my role is actually to identify the internal tools that we need and to integrate them into our digital ecosystem in a coherent way, all the way from identifying customization and user support at the very end of it. If you have not heard of Earthworm Foundation yet, which is very likely, what we do is we work with businesses and others with the goal of solving social and environmental challenges that the world faces, which is, we do our bit, but we try to connect the boardrooms to the farms, we have our feet in the fields, and to really connect along every part of the supply chain with the companies that source the raw materials all the way to the farmers that grow and produce them. The headquarters is here in Switzerland, in Nyon, which is where I'm based, and we have 16 offices. We have offices in 16 countries around the world and projects in many more. And we have about 370 staff at the moment. So, yeah, this is Earthworm. In 2022, we set off on a path with Vera to develop our Salesforce organization, which we named Terra. So you will hear me talking a lot about Terra this and Terra that. And if you are wondering why we called it Terra, I will get to that. But the idea of this presentation is just to present what set us on this path, what our journey looked like, what we have achieved so far, where we are today, and of course also demonstrate our system in a little bit. So when I joined Earthworm 2020, this is what our tool landscape kind of looked like. And as you can see, a lot of the tools were isolated and Excel-based, and there were plenty of silos of information and a need to chase people for updates because there was no live source of information. So there was a clear need to unite the work processes, streamline the flow of the project information, and so on onto one place. So we needed a base, a foundation for all of these tools to connect to. The reason we were like this is because Earthworm grew quite quickly. So it started off being a very small, of course, organization and grew to a point where this was no longer sustainable, and we realized we needed something different. The first step was to identify the main pain points. So we started off with multiple workshops internally and with Vera, in which people conveyed what they do, how they do it, what was working well, and what wasn't. We had about 16 workshops, and we chose about 40 team representatives across the organization. Using these insights, Vera gave us a summary of what they see as our main pain points and how a system could help us in streamlining our work. Here you can see a few quotes that came out of these workshops showing how the real user experiences is what inspired the way Terra was designed and our eventual mission statement. I'll give you a minute to read these. You'll see people were not asking for much, but the mission statement that we received or worked on with Vera was simple, really. We just wanted to improve the way we work with the digital system that connected our tools, streamlined processes, worked on what we have, or improve and create what we don't have in the most simple and efficient way possible. We were not looking to create the Rolls-Royce of platforms. We just wanted to make it easier to do our jobs and to enjoy what we do. That is a very important element to Earthworm. We really, like Carmen was saying, the work-life balance is important, and we try to make our work fun. So a system had to be the same. So when looking for names, we just basically asked around and discussed various ideas, and we came up with Terra, which made sense because Terra, of course, meaning earth or soil, is where earthworms live and work, and that's what we needed, a place where we could all come together to share and collaborate efficiently. It's hard to imagine how we did anything before Terra. It has honestly changed so much at Earthworm, but we'll get to that. So the idea is when you set off on a path, you need to know where you're going and what success looks like. For us, being the humble earthworms that we are, we just said, okay, maybe by the end of that year, we'll be learning how to use it and to get the most out of it. We weren't sure really what to expect. But Zach, Vera's CEO and founder, shared this image with us, and that really set the tone. We wanted to get moving, even if it was with basic stepping stones. We wanted to get moving and define as we go what success looks like. And I do recommend this, really. It's a good motto. So the initial roadmap was something like this. Of course, reality was very different. And this is what our actual roadmap looked like. So first release was just the CRM side of things, the organizations and the contacts. Even that was something we did not have. We did not have one joint list of all the people and organizations that we worked with. So that was already a revelation. The following year, we introduced the Amp Impact element, which we called Our Work, and I will demonstrate that soon. This introduced business development opportunities, proposal, development projects, design, all the approval processes that we were missing, invoicing with plenty of integrations as well. As if that wasn't enough, then this end of that same year, we integrated Gecko, our HR management system on Salesforce as well, and connected it to Our Work so that the two spoke to each other and brought extra value to the time reporting that we need to do. And then last year, we added the element of budget planning, also with Amp Impact tools, so that the projects that we set up could plan their budgets correctly. We continue on this path. It is far from finished. We constantly receive feedback on improvements that we can make, and we keep going. There's lots more integrations to be done. So as you remember, this is what it looked like when we started. And as we went, certain elements just got absorbed into Terra, until eventually now the system looks more like this. And yes, there are still some elements that are disconnected, but that's what the future holds. More integrations and more connectivity, which is really what the goal is. So it might look very nice in this PowerPoint presentation where it all does the magic for us. But the truth is, in spite of being warned and seeing this change curve graph at the beginning of the path, it was harder than I imagined, because that stage 2 is real. And what we did to help our staff through this is just ongoing support and maintenance of the system. So we're constantly updating our training materials, whether it's written or recorded. We've set up 2 live hours of support calls where people can just call in. This was also something that Vera taught us. People can just call in those 2 hours of the week and get any support that they need. Not that it stops them from doing it any other way. Of course, they can also contact us anytime. We have a whole team of admins. I'm very, very fortunate to work with lovely, patient, talented people. So it's really important to us that people feel supported. And what have we achieved? So we have our one source of truth. We have processes that we didn't have before. We have clarity. We have visibility. We have invoice management and integrations with Box, with Asana, with our HR system, Gecko, and we have sunset quite a few of redundant or Excel-based processes. Have we achieved our mission statement? So the mission was to create an Earthworm ecosystem that's efficient and accountable and connected and pleasant to work with. I think we have. The only reason I say I think is because I know there's still so much more to do, but there's no doubt we have all of those things. We have the accountability, we have the efficiency, and the most rewarding bit of data that I've seen recently is in our staff survey. There's an upward trend with the answers to, does our staff feel that they have the right tools to do their work well? So that is lovely to hear, that people see the logic behind what we're trying to do. I think it's always really important to share the bigger picture and the long-term plan with everybody so that they know why they're doing something and why they're being forced to change the way they work. So yeah, this was the plan. This is the ecosystem as we see it now. Hooray, we did it, and it's worth celebrating. But yeah, there's still so much more to do. This is a lovely graph of our ecosystem, as we like to see it. It's really important that everything that we put in place nurtures one of our processes or our goals, what we're trying to achieve. And there's still quite a few elements that are not connected into our ecosystem in a clear way. So that is what the future holds. One of the elements that I've noticed throughout this process is at Earthworm, we really do try to keep a good balance between structure and systematic approach, which we need, and agility, right? And we're always a little bit between two worlds. We also feel it in other elements because we deal with the corporate world, but we deal with nature and the environment and the people in the fields. So there's always a balancing act. And the last few years have really changed Earthworm in the sense that it's a lot more systematic, and it's been a bit of a shock. So we are constantly trying to rebalance it and to find the right ratio. So the end of the slide, I really want to thank Vera for your part in this journey. And now, without further ado, I will change to show you here. Oh, and of course it's logged me out while I was waiting. We all love the MFA. Okay.
Okay. That was great. Thank you, Eilert. Maybe if anyone has any questions while Eilert logs in, you could just share your questions so far.
Yeah. Yeah, I went a little bit quick, and of course, if there's any questions, let me know.
There's Eilert, but I think let's dive into the demo. We can come to them later.
Okay. So you can see Terra now, right?
Yes, we can.
Cool. All right, so this is our home page. And the nice element about our homepage is the first thing you see here is, like I said, user support is very important to us. So if anybody needs anything, I've got a link here to our support materials on Box. You've got a Terra support request form or a Terra report request form. Both of these use Asana, which is what we use for our off-Terra project management. But yeah, so these are very important. And also we've got a workplace group where we share all sorts of tips and tricks and updates to the system so that everybody can find all that information in one place. So I may have mentioned, I'll say it again, we have customized our system quite a lot. So the names that you see up here won't necessarily look familiar, but organizations is the equivalent to accounts. And this is where we started off the system. We never had this before, a list of all the organizations and the people that we work with. So if I just jump into an organization, I can show you through there how I can see through the Related tab all the other elements. Now, the BDOs, so the business development opportunities, the projects and the proposal are all record types in the Our Work object, which is where Amp Impact stars. For us, it all starts with a BDO, which is our process for requesting approval to work on to develop a proposal. And here we've got some complexity mapping that, depending on how the information that the user puts in, it either goes into a high complexity or a low complexity approval process. If approved, it will automatically turn into a proposal, which looks like this. So in a proposal, you'll have also an approval process just to make sure that we're keeping tabs on everything. Here you'll indicate what the work is, if it's single funded or co-funded. We have different types of projects here at Earthworm. So it is either designing something specifically for this member or allocating funds to a co-funded work. In here, so the process is basically You work on the proposal by defining what is the work. The work, also an AMP Impact record type, defines all the activities and the deliverables, defining who will do what. And in the Finances tab, we have our budget, also an AMP Impact tool to define exactly the budget of this work, whether it's time or OPEX. Now, this is where our integration with Gecko comes into play, because if I assign this to a certain employee, they will see it in their time track in Gecko, and then when they report back, it will update the system here. Means a project manager can see the planned HR budget versus the actual HR costs. Again, as you can't imagine, we never had this. We would have to wait 2 or 3 months after the fact for the time reports to be consolidated and then see, oh, yeah, maybe we should have seen that sooner. So this is revolutionary and lots of fun. And yes, the theme here is cakes, because as Carmen mentioned, I do like baking. So that's what you get to look at. Other than that, we have our yes, so going back to our proposal. Finances, where we have an integration with PDF Butler to generate the invoices. This has made a difference to how our finance team, our accounts receivable, collaborates with the project team. So the relationship managers, in fact. This used to be a chasing game back and forth between the two. And now it's all really clear and visible. What's the status? What's the stage? Where is it at? Who's responsible for what? We now have a really nice, clear process. I'm not saying it was smooth all the way through, but now we're there. And this is what I like about Salesforce, actually, that you can tweak it as you go. It's very nice. Another element that we have integrated in is Box. So in the organization record, I have an integration with Box where I can just jump in and see all the Box files from here. I'm currently logged in as the admin, so apologies, but this works very nicely where you can just get a window into the Box files. So, yes, so yeah, just from one place, I can see everything related to this organization. I can see who's working on what. Time track is reported live, and we have changed the way Earthworm deals with projects. Only took 3 years, but yeah. So, Carmen, do you think I forgot anything? I feel like I went really quickly.
I think maybe if you can just pull up your mission statement, that slide, quickly, then we can just reflect on all those elements from the mission statement. And we can just think then, how is this maybe, okay, efficient? Can you speak to that? How is into adopting a Salesforce and AMP system made everybody more efficient, accountable, connected, and made their work more fun?
Yeah. So the difference is, efficiency-wise, instead of chasing 60 to 80 different relationship managers about the situation and the status of their projects, I can just create a report and see exactly what the situation is, or jump into that specific record to see the details. So that's definitely been a time saver. And it means that finance has all the information they need about potential or secured income at the tip of their fingers, which has been honestly such a time saver for them as well. They're especially pleased and excited about the future integrations that we're planning on that side of things as well. More fun, I think everybody's enjoying a little bit the fact that they know exactly what they're supposed to do, what their responsibility is, and what other people are expected to do in their project. That clarity has provided some peace of mind, which in that time saving and in that clarity, of course, throughout the change, it's been hard to say, yeah, that we're having a great time. But those who got onto it quickly and understood it quickly have enjoyed it very much, for sure.
Yeah, and I know how important that audit trail as well as the approval processes trail has been for the accountability side of things. on your side,
Yes.
especially since you were using Excel before, and there's not that great a audit trail in Excel. And so
Yeah.
just how important that has been for you.
Exactly. Not just the audit trail as well, the chatter, so we can see the history of who said to do what, why. But in the record types that have an approval process, we have the audit trail, and we can see exactly who changed what, when, where, and where it is in the approval process. And again, that visibility has made a big difference. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Eilert. So there are some questions that have come through. I think maybe stay here on the system.
Sorry.
So
Yeah.
no, it's okay. So there was first question from Brian where he asked, is Salesforce your ERP system, or do you have a separate finance system like NetSuite or Workday financials that your invoices and expenses integrate to? If you just want to talk to that.
Yeah, we have a separate ERP system, which is business continuity of Microsoft. And we are looking into how we can, we also have Yokoi, which is our expenses app. So we have an app where people submit their expenses, and we have our ERP for the finance team. Those two are already somewhat connected, and then we want to pull the final truth from business continuity to Terra so that project managers can see the OpEx reality live as well. It is all possible, it just takes work.
Well, Caroline, do you want to choose the next question?
I think we can just go right down the list, if that works.
Okay, cool. The next one was just they'd like to see more about your budget planning elements, if you're able to show a bit more about that. And while you're away there, maybe there was a question as to if you need to handle multiple currencies in your system.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, we do. We deal with multiple currencies. As I said, we have offices on 16 different countries. That has been a challenge. The Salesforce system, of course, allows some level of converting, but when we wanted to update the different elements at different times, it was a brain scratcher. But we got there. We found a way to timestamp the exchange rate in the certain record as it was created, so that only that exchange rate was used in converting our amounts as they were updated. And then with the finance budget tool. I love this budget tool, actually. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful element of the system. So what we do here is we've separated the budget lines into time and OpEx. You can either create these one by one, if you like. For us, the way that we calculate the costs of all these things are the rank, the country, and the number of days. Later, when you put in the name of the person that's going to do this work, that's when it connects to their time track module in Gecko, the HR system. And of course, you have to link this to the activity. So basically, who's doing the work, how long will it take, and what are they doing? Then on the OpEx side of things, you have different types of fields, of course, because different things are important. Like what is the subcategory? What's the expected quarter? Because finance wants that information. And what cost center does it relate to? And of course, what is the amount? So you can either do that one by one, or you can use the upload download template, which means you download a beautiful Excel, you open that up, you do everything in Excel, and then you upload that back up. We have discovered the limit is 1,000 lines, but it works beautifully. And it is a question of planning the lines correctly so you don't reach those numbers. That's a nice tip. Another way we've done this is using a report. And I love that we have so many options because people can use what works best for them and what they're comfortable with. I've seen some users are a little bit timid about using the system, so they go one by one with their budget line creations. Those who have discovered and mastered the Excel thing, which is really not that complicated, they love doing that. And here, I don't have many examples, but using the field editing means that you can see the whole budget in one place, and you can play with the amounts so that you can see how the total changes in front of your eyes. So I like that very much. Yeah, if you want to see the Excel, I don't know how much to go in detail. Feel free to stop me if I'm going too far, okay? I could probably.
I think this is great.
This is
This
good.
is the
Okay.
best part of today. So we'll keep going as long as we can.
Okay, cool. All
I
right.
think on the budgeting front too, we have a really exciting budget UI coming out in our next release. So I will share a prototype of that when we get into the AMP snapshot section of this.
Cool. Thanks. All right. So yeah, this is the Excel that when you download, this is what you see. Instructions, all the reference lists, because it has to be an exact match. So we gave people all the information that they need here. And this is where people create the budget lines. So basically they put in the information, they save, and then they click upload here and select the file, and it creates the lines for them, time and OPEX. And it's like magic. Any other questions I can help with?
Priscilla, was there anything else you wanted to see on the budget piece? Can we move to the next question?
Yeah, you see here too, I've got the fixed rate so that people know exactly what is the exchange rate, so people know what they're working with.
Okay, Eilert, there's another question on how do you measure your return on investments on projects that you invest in?
Lovely. We're working on that this year. So the first step for us was to set up the funded work element. This year, we're looking at the unfunded work. And what we're thinking of within the hour work object, we'll set up new record types for cost center budgets. And those cost centers will basically invest in unbillable work, which is like admin or HR, all these kind of normal things, those kind of activities that we all do and is part of our time and costs, or Earthworm initiatives, meaning what we invest in. Because we do, a lot of our work is funded, of course, otherwise we couldn't be here, but a lot of it is Earthworm investments. So that is how we will keep track. But it'll be a similar structure. It's as if Earthworm is the proposal funding organization, and we have all our projects within it. So we've set up a nice structure, which we can build on and use for other use cases within the organization.
Great, thanks, Eilert. Okay, and one that I think I mentioned in the little intro, you love change management and you've done so well. So this question is, can you speak more to the team's attitude towards change, and also how involved have your users been in the iterations and feedback?
Okay. So the first part, the reactions were very mixed. We've had people that were like, why should I do this? And very resistant to change. And we've had the extreme of, thank God you've done this. We have been waiting for so long, and everything in between. Lots of people we're not a very tech savvy bunch, honestly. We really are basic, and a lot of us are more comfortable in the fields with plants and trees than we are in front of a computer. So knowing that, it was a lot of patience. We have a core team. The core Terra team has a representative from different subject matter experts, so that we all knew how to respond to the different questions and requests and needs of our users. I think that made a big difference, because that means if somebody has a question or a doubt as to the logic behind the finance element, our finance representatives knew exactly how to answer why this is important, why we've done this. I have done so many presentations explaining to people why. I remember having one relationship manager telling me, you're asking us to take our squares and fit them into your circles. It doesn't make sense. This is painful. I said, yes, it is. But we've gone to great length to create the right circles for you so that we can all talk about circles and not triangles or squares or various shapes. We need to be talking the same language. So yes, it's a little bit painful. I acknowledge, I accept, but we have to do it. And the second half of that question, I'm sorry, I forgot. There was a second half.
How involved have your users been on iteration, so your future releases as well as feedback?
Okay, feedback we get galore. We're not shy. Nobody here has been quiet. We are constantly asking for it as well. And so in our core team, if there was an element that spoke more to HR, more to the relationship managers, we try to make sure that there's a good representation of that in our core team. But we did not pull many users into our testing and so on. Yeah, felt like asking people a bit too much, to be fair.
Great. Thank you, Eilert. This was wonderful. And I'm sure Eilert would be very keen to answer anybody else's questions after this call or in Zoom directly if you want to continue with those questions. Yeah, we're going to move on to the next section. Thank you so much, Eilert. You did great.
Thank you very much for having me. And yeah, if there's any questions, just let me know.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. I'm always get very excited to see the different ways that you all are using AMP. That was a great demo. So thanks very much for all the prep that went into that. I'm going to do a bit of an AMP snapshot, and then we're going to dive into the AI conversation that we're planning to have. So I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully I can do this correctly. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, wonderful. So I'm going to do just 10 to 15 minutes on what's new with Amp Impact and what you can expect going forward. One thing I just want to highlight is we had a release in March. Sorry, it's very early here. We had a release, Orion, this year. And there's a couple of nice feature enhancements in here that I wanted to call out to any of you who haven't explored it yet. We'll also share this slide deck with you after. There's links to our release notes and our release overview video, so you can actually see what these changes mean. But just in our O release, we had some UI enhancements, or UX enhancements rather, to quickly create framework objectives, child framework objectives directly from the frameworks component itself, instead of the additional clicks that it took to sort of create one, find the parent, etc. So that's a nice enhancement. We've also introduced the ability to on that framework table to define the sort order of those project indicators, so that you can actually see your objectives, the related indicators, and they're sorted in a sensible way. We've also introduced the ability to lock comments on targets and results. So on the add results and set targets pages, there's those little comment bubbles. Previously, in previous releases, those were still editable even after someone had submitted those targets and results and the UI was locked for the target and result values. Now you can actually choose whether you want to lock those comments when those things are submitted. You still have the option to leave them editable. And then again, we've got another nice UI UX improvement here, which is on the activities Gantt chart that we have, adjusting the widths of columns, which is a simple and yet very, very powerful enhancement that I think Alicia is here from American Red Cross. They are a big power user of the Gantt chart, and this was a big one for them. So I'm very excited that we were able to deliver this. So again, I'll link this. We'll share this, and you'll be able to explore this a bit more. Always feel free to reach out to one of your customer success managers as well to get more access to the upgrade information. What's coming next for Amp Impact? So I think we've been we've been advertising this one since last year, because we had planned this next P release, which we're calling the Phoenix release, for a while now. It is a really big release. There are 3 really impactful, cool features here that I will show the prototypes for. So the first one is a financials data entry UI. So what Eilert showed was the ability to, you can do things through the native UI by entering records one by one. And you also have that really nice Excel download upload to create those budgets and financial line items. In this next release, we're introducing a Lightning Web component that allows you to plan budgets and also report actuals right within the system. We also have multiple disaggregation levels for indicators. So this is another really big one that we're quite excited about. And then on the framework side, we're introducing the download and upload using that Excel sheet to framework objectives and project indicators. So this is, again, extending that Excel download upload feature that we have in a number of our different feature areas to the frameworks to sort of complete out or aim to complete out our set of features that are able to use that Excel functionality. So I am going to start with, and let me see, am I sharing? Yes. Okay, great. You can see the prototype. So the prototype that we're looking at right now, this is in Figma, so it's a prototype tool. I'm just going to share, I'm going to click through a couple of images to show you what this is likely to look like. Again, the safe harbor statement that you've all heard from Salesforce and probably us is things may be slightly different when the release comes out, but this is really what we're looking at in terms of the planned UI and behavior. So on the financials tab in this particular example, we've popped this new Lightning Web Component in to plan budget and report expenditure. So we're on the plan budget screen right here. And I just want to call your attention to a couple of different things here. One is that we have the ability to have different budgets. So similarly right now for any given project or grant, however you're using that project object, you can have multiple budgets that link to that. The same as here, if you have multiple budgets, you'll just be able to select and sort of toggle between each budget that you want to see in this UI. In order to add a budget line item, you have a button now with a pop-up. There's still the ability to do the Excel download upload, which I'll show also. And then you have your budget lines here with your categories. You've got some total up across your reporting period. So these are actually reporting periods that you set up. In this example, we're doing it annually, but it's really depending on whatever frequency you're budgeting and setting and doing your actuals. This example right here for salaries, we've actually defined the unit and cost per unit, and it's calculating a total amount. So you have the option to do that, or you can just set it at the total level. So you have the option to do either. So if I want to add a budget line item, again, we have this pop-up. I enter that data, and then it goes into our component. I can actually go in and directly within the component enter the amounts as well. And if I want to go to report expenditure, I go to this tab, we see our planned budget for each of these, and then I have my expenditure frequency here that I've defined. So in this case, we're planning at an annual level, but we're reporting quarterly, and we can enter our data into these as well. So that's on the component. I want to show what the download and upload looks like here. So we have this little drop down right here. We have our download expenditure option. We're going to select which reporting period we are reporting expenditure for. So in this case, we're going to do Q1 2025. Click download, and then we'll see the very familiar, Eyelet showed us this too, what the Excel template looks like, where we can actually add in our the line items will appear here, and all we have to do is add in the information here. And then we will upload it, select which one we're uploading, find our file, and upload it, upload those financials. The last thing that I just want to show on this budget piece is that we have the ability to collapse and show summaries. So if you want, if you have a number of different line items, you have the ability to sort of selectively drill into each of those instead of having the whole thing open. So just sort of a helpful UI aspect of this, as we know budgets can get quite overwhelming. Cool. Any questions about the budget before I move on to the other features? Were there any questions in the chat that I should answer? I'm going to take that as a no. Carmen or Chris?
There's
Okay.
nothing.
Great. So I'm going to move on to the multiple disaggregations. So this should look familiar to those of you who are using the impact measurement features in Amp Impact. Right now, I'm just going to show what it looks like to add one of those new an indicator with multiple disaggregation groups. So right now, this is the same. The UI is exactly the same. The change is that we can now actually enter multiple custom disaggregation groups. So those of you who are currently using this functionality know that you can only add one custom disaggregation group and you can cross disaggregate it by sex. We're introducing the ability to add multiple disaggregation groups for a given indicator and to select whether it's nested or stacked. So we'll show the nested first. And in this case, I'm going to show you what it looks like when targets are disaggregated as well. But you do have the option to just set targets at the sort of aggregate level and then report results in that disaggregated way. So again, this is what we're all familiar with for this new indicator that we just set up. We're on the targets page. I'm going to click the plus icon, and we can see that those two disaggregation groups that we entered, age and disability type, are now nested, and we can set targets for this age group with this disability type, et cetera, et cetera. It sums up the total here for everything that you enter here. This is a dynamic summing functionality, but you have the ability to hide that total column if you don't want to see it. So I'm going to save that. And then you'll just see here that that total appears here with a link that lets you know that it's disaggregated. So if I go next to results, we can see, again, this is our new indicator. Here's our target that we just set at that aggregated level. And I'm going to click this plus icon. And you can see that, again, I have my age, my disability within each of those. My total targets are here, and my results are, again, dynamically adding up based on the individual values that I'm putting in each of these disaggregated cells. We also see that we can use the validation, the stoplight validation at each individual disaggregated result level. And you can also do comments at each of those levels as well. And then again, you can hide the total columns if you'd like. Okay, cool. Sorry. The next one before I actually jump into this, we don't have a prototype slide here to show the setup of this next indicator, so I'm just going to describe it. This next indicator, number of children reached, we've set up with 3 disaggregation groups that are nested. So when I go in to actually set my targets, we can see that I have age, locality, and disability type. So we've gotten even more complex in what level of nested disaggregation we can use. At the targets, if it's disaggregated at targets, this is what it will look like, but as results as well. So I think that's quite exciting. The next thing I'm going to show you is what stacked looks like. So we were just talked about nested, and now we're going to look at stacked. So again, just drawing your eye to where we are putting our disaggregation groups here. So we have locality and age group, and we've selected stacked. And this is what that will look like when you're entering results or setting targets. So instead of sort of cross disaggregating those custom groups or nested, they are just stacked. And so we have age and disability type, we're entering those separately. This is us setting targets, and this is us setting results. And so in this case, we have added up, let me just go to this back page. We've added our individual sort of disaggregated results here. And in this case, the result is 290, 290. Great. In the next slide, or the next prototype, I'm showing what it looks like if they don't match. So we obviously want, if we're doing stacked, the results should be the same across those 2 disaggregation groups. So if those results are different, the total amount, we do have validation that flags that. And I think that's the end of that one. Any questions on the multiple disaggregations before I move on to?
Yeah, we do have many questions this time.
Many questions. Okay, great.
So Tanisha wants to know what's the maximum number of disaggregation groups you can have on an indicator, and if it is different from nested to stacked.
We have Harshila from our product team who's working on this particular feature. Not to put you on the spot, but Harshila, do you want to answer this question?
Yes, I was just typing out a reply. So the max number is 6, but it's a little more nuanced than that because of the number of results record that the page supports. So we can get back to you, Tanisha, with more details, but we're looking at supporting a maximum of 6 disaggregation groups for both types. Stat will be able to support a lot more indicators because the number of result records created in that is much lesser than that in the nested type.
Do you wanna take the other questions as well, Harshula?
Sure. Cool. So is gender still a promoted disaggregation type, or are they all custom? So users still have the option to cross disaggregate by sex. And if users need more options other than male, female, and unknown, then they can create a custom disaggregation group for gender and add multiple values. This will work for all data types. So yes, it supports numerator, denominator data types as well. Do the comments show an icon only when a comment is left, or does the icon show whether a comment exists or not? No, that is a requirement that we have in our backlog. Right now, the comment functionality still stays the same as it did when users were using single disaggregation groups. And can you cross disaggregate by sex while using nested? Yes, you can cross disaggregate by sex while using both nested and stacked type of disaggregation types. Coming to the next one, can you indicate if the disaggregation totals should match the primary ahead of time, or do you just get the... Yes, currently we are showing a warning if they do not match. We have a requirement in our backlog where we can provide users with the flexibility to make it a hard validation and show an error instead. So Tanisha will definitely reach out to you when we pick that up. Do we set the disaggregation groups and its pick list values ourselves? Yes. The way to create disaggregation groups and assign those values still remain as it is. So there's no change there. With the stack disaggregation option, is there an option for not applicable? For instance, if only partial data was collected in a particular disaggregation, or will it always require each disaggregation stack to equal across groups? So currently, because we are showing only a warning, yes, it can have a not applicable value or a blank value or a 0. And even in the future, we tend to keep that validation pretty flexible and not enforce a validation so that all of y'all can cater it to your individual business needs.
Any other questions? Did we get them all? Harshula, thank you so much for taking those. All right, let's move to the framework download upload prototype that we have here. So right now we're looking at, let me just actually make sure I'm starting this from the beginning. There we go. So we're looking at a framework component. So those of us who are using this should be familiar. Those who aren't, this is the component that allows you to build out your logical framework, add indicators, and add objectives from a catalog or custom objectives, etc. So what we're looking at right now is a partially built out one. And if I go to this little icon right here, I can see that I can download this framework. And if I download it, it's going to give me this Excel version, which is consistent in terms of structure of tabs with all of the other Excel, where it has instructions, reference data, etc. So we're going to click on that awareness campaigns, which is the framework itself to build out. And I want to click on this right here to just show you a really cool feature, which is a drop down that allows you to see to actually select a parent indicator or a parent framework objective here. So we would select that, and the next screen is just having entered a bunch of these values. Right here, someone entered, instead of one of the approved levels, those pick list values that exist in the system, it's showing maybe someone's cat has walked across their keyboard, and it is not a one of those valid pick list values. So there's an alert there's logic within the Excel itself. So I'm going to cancel that, and we have resolved it to outcome. Great. So there's going to be no warning. I come back here and I can click again this little icon and click upload framework. I'm going to find my file. So in this case, we're going to select intentionally the wrong file, just to show that there is some validation to prevent a user from trying to upload the wrong file. So in this case, we have the wrong file. We're going to cancel. We're going to look and find the right file, upload it, and now we have successfully uploaded our new objectives from that Excel. Any questions on this one?
Not in the chat.
Okay.
Okay, now we have one. If it is a completely empty framework, where would the values from parent framework objectives come from?
Great question. Harshila, can you
Yeah.
help me out with this?
I can take that, yes. If it's a completely empty framework and we download it, the initial template is going to look empty. But as you keep populating your objective names, they will show up in the parent framework objective dropdown. So if, to give an example, if something was populated on row 6, then while you click into row 7, it would show up as an option.
Does that mean we have to upload all of the objectives first? No. Right? What you're saying, Harshila, is that as you're sort of dynamically entering this information into the spreadsheet, it will allow you to select that parent.
Yes, you don't have to upload all the objectives and then build out the relationships with a second upload. It dynamically will create hierarchies, the parent-child relationships. There are a few nuances that will come into picture, like ensure that you're not creating like a circular hierarchy and stuff. All of this will be covered in more detail when we release this.
And is it just the objectives that can be uploaded, or the indicators as well?
It is just the framework objectives.
Okay, then I need to update that slide. Sorry about that. It's framework objectives. Can this function be hidden if we don't want to use it?
Yes, just like other upload download functionalities, y'all can also hide these buttons using the design attribute, and then there will be no way to download or upload these Excel templates or see them.
Great. Any other questions? Oh, we have Harshila, who is joining very late her time, so thank you. Okay, great. So I'm going to jump back over into this. I did that. The next thing that I want to talk about is we are introducing a new self-paced course for AMP users called the Amp Impact Foundational course. So some of you actually have done one of the modules of this, but we're actually packaging it with a couple of more modules to really cover the basics of AMP Impact. The goal being that we are really allowing AMP users, whether you're a product owner, a system admin, a business user who has a important part to play in developing the platform for your organization, really help you explore the full potential of the product and really understand the basics of AMP Impact as a managed package, what product support is, et cetera. So there's going to be 3 modules here that can be also sort of assigned and accessed independently, so they're not dependent on one another. This will be available in early April. Meg, who's on this call now, and some of you have engaged with, is working on putting this together, and we're really excited about it. How do you access it? You'll reach out to your customer success manager with your email and anyone else from your team who you'd like to be added to this, and then they'll get an email with the link to access the self-paced learning system. So it's in an LMS called Easy that we've built it out in. So I'm just going to do a quick summary of what the modules look like. So the first module is Amp Impact Overview and Key Resources. And really, this is understanding the basics of AMP as a managed package, what you get in your licenses and how to access those key resources. So it's an overview of AMP, what's included in the managed package, what's included in the license, a tour of the AMP Impact knowledge base, which is quite a large thing. So I think for newer users, it's good to be able to understand where to find things, how to do an AMP Impact upgrade and what resources are available to you, and then how to report a bug or submit a product feature request is also in there. The second module is AMP Impact Functional Areas, and this is the one that we actually have live right now, so some of you may have already taken this. And it's really just diving into each of the functional areas within AMP Impact. So project setup, frameworks, indicators, targets, and results, work planning and resource planning, financial management, the form builder, and risk management. So if you want to get a sense of what parts of the product are you not using, or are you using them to the depth that you can, this is a good module to sort of walk you through what's available. And then the third module is just an overview of some of the main ways that you can customize AMP Impact. So renaming tabs and labels, for example, leveraging the design attributes in the Lightning Web Components, customizing field sets, cloning the flow templates that come within the package when you install it into the system, and then some basics about exposing AMP Impact in Experience Cloud. So this is going to be available within the next week or so. And so let us know if you would like to check it out, or if you have users within your organization who you think this would be valuable for. The other thing that I just want to flag to you all is many of you who are using AMP Impact are also using many-to-many. And so this is that tagging functionality that is often used for things like thematic areas and geographic areas, but as Ayelet showed, they're actually using it for a lot of other things as well. It doesn't have to be tied to AMP Impact. It can be used everywhere in your system. So there's an upcoming release timeline. It's likely in the next 2 weeks, I would say. We'll share more information about this when it's released, but it's got an improvement around creating multiple tag setting records with the same catalog and target object and being able to use the roll-up fields more effectively. And then a couple of API other upgrade to keep it consistent with the current version of Salesforce. This is just a reminder of the peer learning group. We launched this a couple of months ago. We're starting to get some traction there. Some of you are using it to ask questions and to engage with each other. We are going to start really trying to get more engagement here. We're likely going to start scheduling some peer learning group sessions. We'll use this on Vera Connect as a polling tool to figure out when people are available, what topics people are interested in, etc. And we'll continue to use it as another source of where we can post announcements about AMP Impact. So if you haven't joined this, again, reach out to your success manager who can help you find your way to the peer learning group. The other thing that I'm quite excited to announce is that we are introducing some monthly AMP user advisory sessions with Harshala and Pratik, who are on the call right now from our product team, as well as a couple of others from our product team. And really the goal of this is to amplify the impact of this product, that we all have a lot of say in how we want to see it work. And the goal is that we're getting more regular user insights and feedback. We want to understand your sort of user, product, business challenges and how you'd like to see the product grow in order to support those challenges, resolving those challenges. We want to align, the future development with our users' needs. We have a lot of other ways of getting feedback. Many of you have submitted product support tickets or sent emails to our support email. If you're engaging with a consulting or managed services team or a customer success manager, we're collecting feedback that way as well. Those are not going away. This is just one more way of engaging directly with the product team, and also another way that you can continue to sort of form connections with other users within the Amp Impact community. So the way that this is going to work is we will share a Zoom link, registration link that'll set up those recurring monthly calendar invites that you can pop on your calendar. You don't have to join all of them. We will, on a monthly basis, we're going to aim for about two weeks before each session, we'll send out a topic. And so if that topic interests you, you can plan to join the next meeting. We'll also share some guidelines or sort of suggestions for how to come prepared to, share your screen if you'd like to actually show a specific example, have some specifics around what it is that you're looking for. And so when you join the session, just sort of be prepared to share your insights and contribute there. And then we'll continue the discussion. We'll post a summary in the AMP Peer Learning group on Vera Connect so that we can continue in that chatter thread, sort of talk about things if you're not able to join the group and you want to look at the summary and sort of start to engage there. We just really want to keep the conversation going. And our product team is in there as well as our success team, so we can continue to talk through the feedback that we've seen in the sessions. So, any questions about this? I think this is my last announcement before we get to Aseidas and AI. Cool. So, in the next, definitely not 40 minutes, we don't have that time. We're going to hear from Aseidas, who I'll let him introduce himself, but he's going to guide us through some principles for the responsible use of AI with nonprofits. If we have time, we'll try to get into some breakout groups. If we don't, then I think we as a group can maybe take a look at one of the case studies. And if there is interest, we can maybe schedule a follow-up session to dig more into the use cases around nonprofit AI use and how we can evaluate the ethical, responsible, ways that we can implement that. And then, we'll come back here and we'll share some reflections and wrap up. So without further ado, I'm gonna hand over to Aseidas, and he's gonna share his screen and present those principles.
Cool. So I'm Aseidas. I'm the director of engineering at Vera, and we thought we'd do something a bit different for this presentation. I mean, I'm sure you're all hearing loads of presentations about how AI is going to change your life and your business and all of those things, and that's all great. And I think we believe in the potential of AI to disrupt the nonprofit technology space, and we also believe that it's not always needed, and we want to be more thoughtful about how we implement and when we implement AI. And the research we've been doing internally, building some internal AI tools, and some of the lessons we've learned, and other kind of insights to share with you that you might use in your own AI purchasing or design or implementation projects. So we've kind of borrowed a lot of these from OECD. Has a really great set of 6 AI principles. And we've kind of adopted those and then added some others that are relevant to the work we do. But those are primarily like transparency and explainability, communicating clearly how AI decisions are made by algorithms or algorithmic systems. And the importance of balancing innovation with the trust of the communities that we all serve. But these key points are transparency and explainability, which I just mentioned, fairness and bias mitigation, privacy and data protection, social and environmental impact, the robustness of the solution and the security of the solution, and then accountability, who's accountable for these automated decision-making processes or bad advice or whatever it might be. We'll go through a few examples. I'm just glossing over these in the interest of time, and we'll go in more detail. And then what value do they actually add? And I think in a lot of our discoveries with normal automation, we just started thinking about applying the same rules. I mean, it's just more advanced automation is how we're looking at it in terms of how we'd apply AI in Amp Impact or in a bespoke solution that we built someone. So we have to take all the same considerations into play, and then also like be very mindful that there's a lot of potential to accelerate harm as well as accelerate impact. So yeah, and then finally, the ethics and community engagement in the design of these AI solutions is something we'll talk about. And these, like, they're not well, unfortunately, in the communities, a lot of our organizations work, and there's not a lot of governance in place. There's very few countries, as 5 countries in Africa that have ratified. I'm in Mozambique now, and there's no AI policy. Majority of the countries in the global south don't have robust AI and data security and data privacy policies. So given that a lot of our organizations are in the global north and there are those policies, nascent in some places, but at least the OECD is the most widely agreed upon between countries. We need to be more mindful and kind of think through these what happened to the screen? Our responsibility to be good stewards of applying these technologies to our projects. So these are, I mean, I think the most important aspect of how we design these projects is co-creating with the communities that they'll be applied in, and that the ethical frameworks and values that we use to design these solutions and what it means to have a successful AI solutions are really determined by the communities they serve and should be designed by the communities they serve. So whether that's, you know, co-design or using local talent or technology or other resources, infrastructure to deliver, to make sure that, yeah, again, we're looking at all of there's a lot of intangibles that go into these AI products that have a very negative effect on the environment and in some cases in a lot of cases on the communities they're meant to serve. So yeah, we can go to the next one. I'll just kind of go through these because I do want us to get to the case studies in a lot of time. So yeah, involving your beneficiaries early, having equal collaboration, equal influence on how these projects could be designed and created and developed. Yeah, you're on the next one already. And transparency and explainability. So I think in this example is how if we're using a good example of something we've kind of done for someone and someone we're playing around with is like scoring applications for risk or scoring applications for potential or whatever they might be, or grant applications having a score of, whatever determined by what. We need to be able to explain what that what is, what data, what algorithms, and we need to be able to share that with those who are most affected by it. So if someone had I just personally think automated decisions is a bad idea in our sector, but I know that some people might disagree with me. But either way, can we explain how that decision was made to the people it affects, the organizations or the beneficiaries it affects? So ensuring that you can explain that and that it's not happening in a black box, and that it's clear from the start how these decisions are determined and what data is used to model the best outcome. All right, next. Okay. And so, yeah, fairness and bias. I know we probably hear a lot about fairness and bias in news stories about in recent months. Thankfully, there's a lot of papers being written, a lot of articles where the bias that has existed in a lot of these models being released in the last few years and even before, it's kind of intrinsic, right? They're being traced on data that is biased, of course, and scraped from the internet, and so in some cases the bowels of the internet. So we have to be mindful of that and ensure that we test for that bias. I mean, there are tools you can use now to test for that bias. We can share some of those, and there are frameworks for applying those kind of bias checks to how you do your development. Go to the next. So privacy and data protection, that's obvious. I think we'd apply the same principles to any other project where we'd be utilizing a lot of PII from beneficiaries or donors or whoever. We need to ensure that data is safe and that it conforms to local, international, and like HIPAA, GDPR, a lot of the other data protection frameworks coming into play now. And how do you minimize that? And I mean, I think there's a scramble now for people to AI all the things and not a lot of thoughtfulness going into it. And I think there's a lot of risk there, and a lot of potential, different vectors of attack to gain access to this data, if you're not thoughtful about how you share and when you share the data. And then obviously a biggie here, and the social and environmental impact. I mean, we have, I think most of you have heard the numbers of what it takes for OpenAI to create a new model. It's staggering, and this, in a lot of ways, a lot of these bigger, and I don't want to be too negative because I'm trying to be positive, but it's in some cases a race to the bottom. We just need to get there fast enough and pour more and more resources, whether they're power resources or water resources, which is kind of like a little bit, not a little bit, it's very contradictory to the work, especially environmental organizations might do when they're applying an AI technology to a project. They have to kind of weigh those factors as well. So we've started to go the route of these smaller, more general purpose models that are fine-tuned to specific tasks, and run and have a very small footprint. They're not good at a lot of things, but I don't need an LLM to tell me how to bake a cake or whatever, play a card game. I need it to tell me how to, in case of like an Amp Impact bot that we use internally, tell me how to create a new framework in Amp Impact or something else. So there's been a lot of movement there. Even Salesforce is actually leading in a lot of ways and measuring energy usage and water usage to train these different models, and starting to promote the use of these small language models versus large language models like ChatGPT or Claude or any other names you've heard.
I'm gonna go to
And so and then the overall robustness and security. I mean, if people do rely on these systems to automate, which a lot of organizations are probably being pressured to do this in light of the current state of the world, to automate all the things, how robust is that automation, and how clearly defined are the use cases? I think there have been maybe a lot of darts thrown at the wall, in terms of like products being created, like new products pop up every day when you're watching this space, new models, new ways to do things, right? And what's right today is probably going to be wrong next week. And just being mindful of that before you go all in. We're kind of, I wouldn't say we're waiting for the dust to clear, but kind of we're being cautious, and being very methodical about our research and the work that we do, and making sure we always apply our values as Vera first, and then and our broader values to the social impact sector. And accountability and governance. Again, who's accountable? It won't be the large tech companies for sure. They're just providing a platform, right? But who's ultimately responsible? There's some new frameworks coming into play. ISO has a more generic framework for how to do your AI governance and do risk assessment. That's this IEC 42001. There's some others, and Microsoft has their own version. There's a lot of them, right? So it's kind of hard to see the forest through the trees with a lot of the information coming out now. But I think overall, as a broad guidance, these 9, are there 9? Yeah, 9-ish, 9 to 10 maybe, principles are kind of what's guiding us. And if we are going to decide to do something, we are always looking at these. It's not perfect, right? Because the technology is not perfect, and we do the best we can, and to make them the most ethical decisions we can when responsible decisions we can when thinking about whether we should pursue a new Amp Impact feature that uses AI, or another internal tool that uses AI. Yeah, I think there was, yeah, there's one not, and does it really add value? And that's what, like, thinking back to when I was doing discovery and solution architecture, and there's always a great desire to implement a lot of automation up front. People get excited about it, and I get excited about it too. People who have worked, I get excited about automation. I have to check myself. We need to do the same thing with AI, AI tools, or so-called AI, AI technologies that we're really sure that it's going to add value. And we're really sure that we're clear what that value is, because once we flip the switch on, if nobody's watching, things can get out of hand pretty quickly.
I think the one that you just spoke to is the operational value, right? The one that I'm sharing here is human oversight and control, and I think this is a good one to
Oh,
talk
yeah. Okay.
as well.
Okay, so
Beyond, well, it's a good segue when you said when we flip the switch, right? Like,
right,
how are we mitigating if we
right,
didn't
and
do a good
that's
enough job, right?
yeah. Sorry, I don't know how I skipped over that slide, but okay.
That's okay.
But yeah, human oversight and control. I think that's the human in the loop element. And I'll just say the human element. I don't want to say humans, right, are the most important part of this whole what I don't know, construct called AI. Humans created, humans gather the materials to create the processors to train it. Humans should also have to watch it, and it shouldn't, and if you're thinking about like the future of work and what effect does this have on people, like Eilert said, people at Earthworm love their work, they love their jobs, right? So if we're making these decisions on high, saying, okay, well, we're going to do this, like, I like doing that thing. I'm sure there's plenty you don't like doing about your job, but like, I want to do my job. I don't want AI to, and it's not very good at it. The reality is it's just not very good at it yet. Maybe it will be. So that's something else to ensure you have a human in the loop to have that oversight, to say, okay, well, this is not a great solution, or why did it do it this way, and have a feedback loop to improve things, and have a human always making the final decision. Like, you can accelerate that, you can enhance, you can augment a human's capability by making a bunch of recommendations, but only a human should say, yes, do this thing. I think obviously that's not the case with your insurance premiums or medical claims or whatever other anecdotal thing, but for the purposes of what we do, I think it's super important that we have a human being the one that's making the final decision.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. So we are just at time. We have gone over on a number of different things that I think were really exciting, and I'm glad that we did. We didn't get a chance to do our case study breakouts. We're going to send out a post event survey, and we'll include a question in there of your interest in having another discussion around this. We can actually schedule a peer learning group around this, and maybe that's when we can do the case studies. Alternatively, we can actually we'll share this deck, and if the case studies are an exercise that you want to do within your teams, like, I think that's a great idea. Just let us know what you're interested in continuing to discuss this and have us serve as a convening mechanism for talking to other organizations around about this. I'm going to stop sharing here so I can wrap us up. Thank you very much for everyone for spending the last hour and a half with us. Really appreciate you all being here. Great questions, great engaging, and great engaging feedback on the prototypes that we showed. And we will share out this deck with some other resources. We'll also be publishing a blog pretty soon about what Aseidas is talking about, so we'll keep an eye out for that and share it your way. So thank you, everyone. Again, reach out to us if you have any questions. Chris, Carmen, and I are always here, and we appreciate you all. So have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.